Do you think that you could just start off by telling us a little bit about the origins and the history of classical music in China? What were some of the main influences and the factors that were responsible for introducing classical music in China, would you say?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm not really a historian.
It's okay.
So whatever I'm going to say probably needs to be fact-checked. But, most people tend to agree that Matteo Ricci was a Jesuit missionary who was sent to China via Macau, brought the first clavichord to the Ming court in 1601. And thereafter, the Ming court actually maintained the tradition of European classical training all the way to the Qing dynasty. Yeah. So there is a very rich, well, at least from the Ming dynasty anyway.
Yeah, but Matteo is almost kind of seen as that, mythical figure in a way.
Yeah, yeah. Was he not the one who also came up with the idea of memory palaces? Okay. I forget. Anyway, that's a bit of a digression. Okay. But I think maybe people would be more familiar with the idea that Western art music is introduced to China in the wake of China being forced to open up.
Yeah. In very much the political climate, isn't it? And
forced to take part in very unfair trade negotiations, which eventually resulted in the Opium War. Along that time, Western art music was brought into China, if you like, in one way or another, very much enmeshed with the interests of the so-called colonizing parties, those who were interested in staying in China. So there's that aspect of things, but in the 1910s and 1920s, with the rise of the new cultural movement, when certain sectors of society in China came to the realization that they thought of themselves as backward, or feudal societies in China as backward. Okay. And the main reason for the loss of, military might, economic ground, and political weight during the Opium War, this was blamed on China or Chinese society seen as not embracing things that were modern, things that were scientific. Okay. And Western art music was part of the whole package of being modern, being scientific. So there was a huge, there was a rush to, I wouldn't really say take on Western music as it were, but it was part of this whole new approach to understanding culture and education. And this also coincided with the rise of the Shanghai Jazz Age, and Shanghai being a port that also saw the introduction of not just Western art music, but many different musical styles from around the world. I mean, sometimes Western art music could have come not directly from the so-called West, which I use in inverted commas, because, or even the word Chinese or East, I prefer to use inverted commas.
Yeah, it carries those connotations, doesn't it?
Not just connotations, but I don't think it's fair to think of these as monolithic blocks of culture. And also to even think of Western art music as being introduced as a one-way traffic kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Is also slightly problematic. Okay. Least of all today. And it wasn't the only kind of music that was introduced, as it were.
Oh, China of course not. Of course, many different musics, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think there's this overtroping of these cultural flows in only one direction, as if there is only one thing that was part of cultural exchanges and flows in and around China. Yeah.
Was there very much a focus on, I suppose, rationalism and intellectualism?
Yes, to an extent, but a very particular Chinese form of rationalism during the New Cultural Movement.
Okay,
but
can you explain a bit more about that?
I wouldn't really use the word rationalist, but it was more this rush to embrace technology, to be scientific, to be modern. I think. But again, I think things were to change with the rise of the Chinese Communist Party, and the impact it had on culture making and cultural production in China, which put Western art music in a very tricky position